All right, crypto friends, checking back in real quick before getting into it. If you didn't see the live video that I did that Sunday and broadcasted it to members and then made it public shortly afterwards. But it's a really good review where it's one of the first videos where I've actually recorded while I was trading. And though I didn't have my screen up, I was covering the charts while I was going over everything and pointing everything out that stood out to me as that being the bottom and a nice opportunity. And I think it is a good live example on what's going through my mindset, all the little clues, all the little pieces of the puzzle that I was looking for that had me more confident that this bounce was going to continue following through, which it has to a very nice degree at this point. So check that video out. It's on the same channel that we got here on the YouTube channel. And let's get into it. So the bounce has currently seen significant gains. Yesterday was my most profitable day in this space in the past 3 months. So that just goes to show you that even though we can see, a huge uptrend and certainly tons of gains on the way up, having all of that profit locked in and having that cash ready to go on opportunities like we saw yesterday gave that the most profitable day. So that was certainly very nice. And now from here, looking to see what's to come. And that's what everybody's question is, is this bounce for real? Are we changing the trend? Is this just another lower high? And the thing that's changing my mind the most in terms of this bounce may be for real for now is found on the daily time frame. And we're starting with ETH here. So first things first, we have our bullish reversal candlestick on the daily time frame. Let's get rid of some of these lines here there's that nice lower wick. So bullish reversal hammer. And what stands out to me on this chart right now is what we thought was the volume climax signaling the low with the bullish reversal hammer. The confirmation candlestick had more volume. That is very significant in my opinion. That is the third highest volume day in the history of ETH, and it's a green Marubozu. And a green Marubozu candlestick is when the open is the low and the close is the high, and it shows you that the bulls controlled the entirety of the trading day, and it shows you that it's a ton of bull volume. So that is very significant. I would be surprised if after this volume we were to set a lower high and then come back down and break 130. I do believe that 130 is going to be our low for the significant near-term future. Let's say I believe that 130 is going to be our low for the next few months, unless we see an all-out collapse on August 1st, which I certainly do not foresee. That would be a scenario where we would be looking for, a break of 130, but I don't think that's happening. So now I'm starting to pay attention for longer term trend signals. So what stands out to me is the fact that we have not seen 2 green days in a row since this downtrend started back at the end of June. So we are almost a month now with not seeing 2 green days in a row. This candlestick just changed an hour ago, so it is still possible to see a green day over the next 23 hours. That's what the bulls want to see to further the odds of changing the trend into the favor of the bulls. But looking at this daily time frame, this lower high pattern, the most recent lower high, let's get rid of some of these markings from previous videos, but the most recent lower high was at 228.88. So for us to break the lower high pattern, we have to get back and break 228. And where we currently stand is down here in the 180s. So we are unlikely, in my opinion, to see a $40 move from here and break this lower high pattern on one straight shot. What I believe needs to happen is we need to set another lower high compared to 228.88. And then everybody's going to say, uh-oh, is that our new lower high? And are we heading back to lower lows? But due to this bull volume, I do not believe we will head back down to lower lows. I believe we will set a lower high. We will consolidate. We will form a higher low compared to 130. And then we will see a higher high breaking the lower high pattern. So I do not believe that the bulls have the momentum to break the lower high pattern on this go around. I think they're going to consolidate and then make that move up to break the lower high pattern. And again, it's the volume of this candlestick alone, because look at the last attempt. It was a bullish reversal candlestick, not as strong, but the volume on the follow-through was lower, and then we had an inside bar on the daily time frame and a bear break. So even if we do see a red day and we don't see a green day following this candlestick, I will still be looking for that higher low pattern, and the 4-hour chart will be a good guide. Another good guide is going to be the MACD here. If we get a bull MACD cross on the daily time frame, that will be significant as well. We have not seen one of those follow through in months at this point. And that would be another indication that the trend is back to favoring the bulls for some significant recovery. Keep in mind, percentage-wise, where we are coming from. The all-time high to 420, and we dropped down to 130. So that is a $290 drop out of 420. That is very significant, and I do believe that we could see some turnaround. So let's zoom in on the 4-hour time frame and see from here. So the bulls seeing a nice bounce and nice follow through. The bull MAC decross was another indication that the bulls had further momentum. And again, all of the little details as to how we knew that the bottom was in. I made my first entry at 139, and I've been buying and selling the whole way up. And one thing that was standing out was obviously the volume off of the low, and that bull MAC decross on the 4-hour time frame gave me a lot more confidence that we were going to see further follow through. So whenever you see an oversold bounce on a certain time frame, you use that time frame to dictate, okay, how long can this oversold bounce play out? So if it's on the 5-minute time frame, you can assume it's going to play out, for a certain smaller period of time. But if the oversold bounce is initiating on the 4-hour time frame, you know it's going to be more drawn out than that, and it's going to play out a bit longer. So that can warrant more patience and more swing trade positions being taken than if it's just a 5-minute or 15-minute or even an hourly oversold bounce. Once that 4-hour gets really low, we know a bounce is likely, and it's a very similar situation. Keep that in mind. This situation is very similar to what we saw on the last bounce attempt. Bull MAC decross signaled further upside. RSI was down even lower, under 20, when the bounce took place, and it was just another lower high and then lower lows. The one difference here, and hopefully you all at home are picking something out, which I am picking out, and that is volume. The bull volume here is more significant on this move than it was back here. We did have one nice big bull volume candlestick, but if you were to add all the volume up, it would be significantly higher on this go around than it was that last time. So that's the reason that I'm a bit more confident. So what we have right now on the 4-hour time frame, I'm looking at the most key level of support right now is down at 159.80. That is a very important level for me. That was a consolidation low. That was a level where we saw the bounce. The bears started to take over. We hit that level, and the bulls said, okay, we're done. We're going higher. And so that's a key support level. We're pulling back now, topping out just under 200, and anything above this level of 159.80 can keep the bulls in control on this 4-hour time frame. So I do believe we're going to have another nice trade where we do consolidate and form a higher low somewhere. I'll look in on the hourly time frame and get some more details as to where I believe that higher low is going to form in just a moment. But I do believe we'll form a higher low, and then from there, the question will be, do we see another higher high in continuation, or do we see a lower high and a tightening equilibrium pattern? And that equilibrium pattern, oh so common on every time frame. But as of right now, I'm also watching the volume. So the volume, we have 2 hours and 45 minutes left in this candlestick, and I can see that it is very unlikely that we're going to see anywhere near the bull volume that we saw on this bear volume candlestick, which is a good sign for the bulls as well on this consolidation. So let's zoom in on the hourly time frame. Actually, one more thing here. Another thing that I'm watching very significantly is this lower high downtrend. And we've rejected from this multiple times, making it a valid trend line over 3 times. And on the last couple bounce attempts, we didn't even make it to this level. So we have to keep that in mind. And again, it's a good idea to always look at history and see what has happened in the past. So we know we may be seeing our top for now, and we don't have to hit that downtrend line for it to be our top. And if we were to hit that downtrend line, that's going to be right at about just under $200. So keeping an eye on this level. And also, breaking this downtrend line alone is not going to change the trend. We have to break the lower high, higher low pattern. So again, here's what I was talking about. Coming from 130 to see that we were going to break 229, let's call it just rounding, that's not going to happen. And we're going to have to set higher lows and higher highs to change this trend. We're not coming right off the bottom to break the lower high pattern. So zooming in on the hourly time frame, getting some more details. Let's see what this volume looks like on consolidation. So far, no big red flags. So just like we consolidated here for 4 hours, bulls bought the dip off of that support, and then we saw continuation. We're going to be looking for the same here, and maybe we won't get that continuation, but we will be looking for another entry opportunity here overnight. So I'm looking down at support now. The low of this consolidation candlestick on the hourly, 178 is an important level to me. And after 178, I'm looking down at 172.70s, these two levels right here. So those two levels deserve a support line because they are consolidation lows on the way up. So I'll be watching those two levels. And what determines whether or not I will get in at those levels is, number one, what's the shape of the candlestick on the hourly time frame? Are we forming a bullish reversal candlestick? Are we seeing decreasing bear volume? Then I will zoom in again to the 15-minute time frame and say, okay, what's our volume look like? That's fairly solid bear volume just because it's so consistent on the way to the downside. But if we were to hit 178 under oversold conditions on the shorter term time frames, that's going to make me more likely to buy. So the 5-minute RSI right now is down at 36. And if we were to dump in the next 15 minutes down to 178, that RSI would be getting oversold. I would be more likely to make a bullish entry off that level. If we see lower highs and lower lows and take our sweet time heading down there, then I might hold off and see how we react to some of these other support levels on the way down. So I'm in no rush to get back in here. And the higher that we moved to the upside on this hourly chart, the quicker my trades were. And on the first day of the bounce, I actually made more buying and selling than I would have if I just bought and held, which was a nice feeling. And that doesn't always happen. And even when it doesn't happen, I'm perfectly fine with that because I know I'm being very protective. I'm playing with my whole stack besides what I've cashed out. And I want to protect everything and keep these profitable trades coming. So every hour that we saw after this consolidation, and once we saw this continuation, once we got up into the 180s and the 190s, I was very quick on my buys and sells. I bought in 185.50. I sold 188.50, just locking in those gains continuously and not wanting to be left holding the bag when we see this drop. Right now from the top, anybody that bought over 190 is instantly down over $10, which would be a big hit to my stack using my overall account. So I don't want to risk that. I am in and out looking for $2 to $4 to the upside once we're extended to the upside. On the way up back here, when the bounce was early and developing, I was cashing out on $10 moves because I knew the moves were more significant to the upside and we were not as overbought. The closer this RSI on the hourly got to 70, the quicker I was going to be with my trades. So here we are right now. Looks like we're down at 180, getting closer and closer to that 178 level. So let's look at this 5-minute RSI as we're at 180. It's not going to be too oversold when we get to 178. So I might sit 178 out for now and wait for things to consolidate a little bit more and play out a little bit more. I'm in no rush to get in. It's been a great 2 days. Not trying to give any of my profits back, being extra picky, and taking it from there. So this is the first time we've seen 2 red candlesticks in a row since this second leg to the upside started. And actually, it's the third leg to the upside. So that stands out to me. And so does the volume. The volume right now, we're 18 minutes into the candlestick, so we've got about 66% of the time left, so you can compare the volume. We had 33K on the last candlestick. Right now we've got 12K. So if that rate were to continue, we would see an increase in bear volume this candlestick because that would give us, 66% more. We're going to be looking at 36,000 volume compared to 33,000 volume. So that's another thing I'm noting and comparing what the volume is going to look like. So I'm in no rush. We'll see where we consolidate. And as of right now, that's what we're waiting on. A higher low to be established on the hourly time frame. So let's get into Bitcoin and go through the same routine. Daily time frame. Get rid of some of these lines to see that nice lower wick of bulls buying the dip with our bullish reversal candlestick. Looked like our volume climax was in, and then we had a slight increase in volume. Huge bullish reversal confirmation candlestick, green Marabozu. But we're now pulling back a little bit. We had a clear bear break of this pattern on the daily time frame that led to that all-out dump. And watching, I'll leave this support line and this downtrend resistance line here just to see how the price reacts to it on the way back up. It's entirely possible we reject from that previous support acting as resistance, or this downtrend resistance line still staying as resistance. Also something to be keeping an eye on. So solid volume, bulls trying to reverse this trend, trying to form their higher low, but we have to see a higher low and higher high on this daily time frame in order to change this trend in favor of those bulls. So the 4-hour time frame right now, very nice bounce. What stands out? Every time I say that, the answer is volume. You guys are going to be catching on real quick. Pretty easy quiz. So what stands out is the volume. Look at this beautiful increase in volume on our last leg to the upside. That tells me to anticipate a higher low to form, and at the very least, you're going to get nice gains back up towards the high, and even if we set a lower high, you'll get some nice gains, and there's the potential of continuation with a higher high because of the volume backing up this move. Let's look at the last all-out dump that we had and the bounce that followed from there and compare the volume here. So here it is, all-out dump. Bull MAC decross signals some continuation to the upside, same as it did here. And the volume on the leg to the upside, pretty weak. It was increasing, but compared to the bear volume on the way down, it was roughly the same. You look at the last 7 hours of trading, look at the bull volume compared to the bear volume in the last, and this is not the last 7 hours, this is the last 7 candlesticks of each candlestick representing 4 hours. That is very, very significantly much more bull volume than bear volume. And if you were to do the same thing back here, it would not be anywhere near the same. So we're consolidating right now. We're still in a very clear lower high pattern. And actually, I'm going to get rid of this downtrend resistance line on the daily time frame. And let's draw it up on the 4-hour time frame to see where we stand. And I would start it from a point right about here, and looks like we would break it from that angle. So just playing around with trend lines to see where my starting point would be. Let's try from the all-time high up here. That's a little too far away for me to be concerned with. So just playing around to see where. So no real downtrend lines are close. So I'm going to be using the previous price levels. And the previous bounce attempt high was 24.16, 24.17 in that level. So same thing. We're not going to come right off the low and break the lower high pattern. We're going to see our bounce. We're going to set another lower high, and then we're going to consolidate and try and set a higher low and then a higher high. So zooming in on the hourly time frame, how does this consolidation look at this point? We are seeing the first 2 red hours on this third leg to the upside. There's tons of bull flags here on the way up. These were very, very clear signals of continuation. So note those bull flags because that's a very clear bullish continuation pattern, especially when it's on very low bear volume on that consolidation. So right now we're pulling back. I can tell we're likely to see an increase in bull volume here. So since I've been talking now, it's a little bit less than 66% left, but we are about more than halfway. We're right at about halfway of the volume of the previous candlestick, and we're not halfway into the time playing out. So going to be very cautious. The bulls are looking for a higher low compared to this consolidation low. Again, it's the same pattern as Ethereum, just different levels obviously, but the correlation is pretty much the same. So 1976, anything above that level will be a higher low to be looking for an entry on, and then we'll be looking to see a likely equilibrium pattern with our low, keeping the higher low pattern intact, our lower high, and then we'll watch the range tighten up from there. That's what my anticipation of what is going to happen is going to be, and we'll have to keep checking for clues to see if that is going to be how it plays out. So the 15-minute time frame from here, you can see the clear, this was a beautiful trend line break, and you don't even have to draw it. You can see visually it's there. And I would even want it tighter than this, so I wouldn't draw it from the exact bottom. And I would draw it from the second one right here, and to get that nice and tight. Making sure no candlesticks close below that trend line. And we had one last little bounce attempt over it, and then it broke, and it's been nothing but a half hour of downside once that uptrend line did break. So now I'm looking at support right here of 2150, and we have not broken that level yet, so keeping an eye on that support at 2150, a little consolidation low, so going to get rid of that uptrend line as it's no longer valid. We're at this support right now, and the way this is setting up, if we do see a bounce off this level, we'll have to be cautious of a potential bearish reversal head and shoulders pattern, but that is a long way away from developing. We'd have to see a little bounce and a right shoulder form from here. So just same thing, cautious here, watching to see if this support can hold, checking back in on ETH. Looks like our support did hold at 2178 at this point. The bulls are trying to form a bullish reversal candlestick. So always watching the correlation between these two names. And right now the bulls are trying to hold these higher lows on the 15-minute time frame. We'll see if they can be successful at this over the next half hour to an hour. So that's what we're looking at here. How much consolidation are we going to see? We're going to pull back and set a higher low on the hourly time frame. And where is that going to occur? And we don't know yet. We need a bullish reversal candlestick on the hourly time frame to give us confidence that our higher low has been set. And we don't have those anywhere near forming at this point. LTC daily time frame. What stands out? First time we've seen 2 green days in a row since the all-time high. Bullish reversal candlestick, now confirmed. Higher low pattern still intact. The low of the last consolidation was down here at 33.38, and we have our higher low, not by a lot, but it is a higher low at 34.78. So I've got a downtrend resistance line here. I believe that's from the 4-hour. We will zoom in just a moment. Not a ton of volume, so this volume is solid for the bulls, but it's not as convincing. But then again, we are also in an uptrend, and the bulls do not have to prove to us their strength like they do in ETH and BTC. Both of those names have to break a downtrend on the daily time frame. We have a mini downtrend that we're watching, but we're in an overall long-term uptrend that is much stronger than what we're currently seeing on ETH and BTC because we have not broken this long-term uptrend. So here on the 4-hour time frame, let's get some more information. So there's the bounce. That's the downtrend resistance line on the 4-hour time frame. And right now that's lining up at about just under 44, the upper 43s. So again, same thing. Look at the bull volume since the bounce initiated. Very significantly favoring bull volume compared to bear volume. Consolidation, I'm looking at a key support of 39.72. That's the lowest point we hit on that consolidation. Bulls want to maintain that level. And in terms of the pullback we're currently seeing, looks like we just made a bear break of this inside bar, just barely to the downside. So further consolidation likely to continue here, and we'll be looking for a higher low to form compared to 39.72. Zooming in for more details, looking at the hourly time frame, you can see our clear higher low pattern still intact. And I would be looking at this level as well, 39.90. The bulls want to hold that level. Not a significant pullback right now. Bear volume is declining. No significant bear volume. We've been hanging around this $42 level for a long time here on LTC. And the correlation right now, if you've been watching the past 2 days on this bounce, is stronger between Bitcoin and Ethereum and weaker with Litecoin. Litecoin was stronger on this bounce initially in the first leg or two, the first two legs to the upside. Litecoin was stronger, and then the third leg to the upside, Ethereum and Bitcoin caught up as Litecoin was weaker compared to those two on the third leg. So here we are consolidating. We want to see a higher low. We'll see if the bulls can form that higher low. 15-minute time frame. Consolidation is not significant at this point, not as it is here on Bitcoin, and here we are down at the low of this pullback. So again, no rush. We're hitting lower lows. Bears are still in full control of this pullback at this point. We're just being very patient. No bids are in, watching the action. Play by play here, and going to make a decision once we see the first signs that support are forming. So now, Golem on the daily time frame is looking pretty good for a bounce, that is. And what I'm looking at is the MACD cross, about to see a bullish cross, and more importantly, the higher low. So 8.8 was our low down here. Higher low is now at 9.17, and in order to break this trend, again, coming off that low, we're not going to break the trend right off the bottom. We have to set another lower high, pull back, set our higher low, and then break the lower high pattern. So the bulls have to break 13.466 to see a higher low and a higher high, a bull MACD cross, and a trend change to favor those bulls. And that's really where we stand right now. And I'm not even looking at the shorter term time frames. At this point, I have scaled down. I've mentioned in some of the other videos, I was scaling down my position back up here. And I do have a long portion that is all profits in the cryptocurrency space in Golem that I'm going to ride at least until the end of 2017, probably multiple years. It's one that I'm just willing to set and forget at this point. And, you know, if Golem becomes a thing, that is going to be a nice chunk of change eventually. But I'm certainly fine just letting it sit there right now. And there's no big red flags here. I'm going based on fundamentals. And if we were to see, you know, a drop and break out or break down and break all these key levels of support that have been established, then I might reconsider things. But again, I'm being very lenient on this position and very loose in terms of what it would take for me to exit, technically speaking. So that's what we've got. I'm starting to work on this video course, and really it's going to take a long time just because I don't really have time to do anything. And I'm working on it on weekends. But I'll get it as soon as I can. There's going to be a lot of good content in there. I appreciate everybody's feedback on topics and stuff. I've already laid out all the main topics, and I can already tell that I can talk for hours on this stuff, and it's going to be very informative. So that's what motivates me and excites me to make it. So it's just all about organization now and building slides and then recording the content and editing and all that. And it does definitely take a while when it's that much information, but I'll let everybody know when that's good to go. And we're going to likely make it free for members, and we'll charge for non-members, and we'll see how long it ends up being and how many hours we put in and all that. So thanks, everybody. Hope you have a good night. We'll continue to check in as things end up playing out. Always be protective of things. Always be skeptical of the bulls until they prove to us that they have broken the downtrend, which they have not done yet. All you need to do is keep checking this 4-hour time frame. Have we broken the lower high pattern? Clearly not. This bounce is nowhere near breaking the lower high pattern at this point. We have some signs that potentially this is the temporary bottom for now, but until we see higher lows and higher highs on longer term time frames, bulls still have to prove it to us. So thanks again, and we'll see you soon.